Did you know that gambling is a sin? And my pastor goes, I will bet you $100 you can't find anywhere in the Bible that it says gambling is a sin.
Dr. Nicholas Michels, founder of Michels Family Financial and the creator of the Rich by Choice movement, where he's been guiding people to turn resource into peace, purpose, and legacy.
And if you asked me 10 years before I made that move, I would have said, you're crazy. Like, if someone offers me that amount of money, I'm gone. Yeah, sign. Where do I sign? But, I started to see cracks in the industry.
Outwardly successful, inwardly stressed.
And what that means is on the outside, I see, business. I'm a successful financial advisor. I'm growing. I'm a partner with the firm. Everything's going good. But then at home, my wife and I just seemed like the happiness wasn't growing with it. It's not like we were fighting and yelling, but it's more like we're still having these same conversations. We're not getting over this. Money can be an incredible blessing, or it can be incredible hardship. We have the choice on how we handle it.
Did you ever think that money is the root of all evil?
It's interesting that you bring that up, because when you hear things like that, money's evil or this is wrong, especially when you're a kid, you get certain things ingrained in you. We all do. And whether it be right or wrong information gets in. So it absolutely can hurt someone if they subconsciously think money's bad, but they're making all this money. And even if they're doing something right, even Tony Robbins has a great quote, the more people you help, the more successful you're going to become. That's a wonderful way to live life.
When you think about your life, your career, the books that you've written, the people that you've helped, what would you say is the biggest thing you've had to unlearn?
Oh, unlearn.
Welcome to Everyday Leadership, the podcast where we go beyond titles to explore the truth behind what it means to lead with intention, authenticity, and impact. And today I have the pleasure of talking to Dr. Nicholas Michels, who's the founder of Michels Family Financial and the creator of the Rich by Choice movement, where he's been guiding people to turn resource into peace, purpose, and legacy. I don't think it's very often you hear people, resources into peace, purpose, and legacy all kind of coming together. But this is what we're going to delve into today and how he actually does that. Coming from very humble beginnings, and now he's a best-selling author, certified financial planner, and spent 2 decades helping thousands of people find stability and confidence. And his work, which I really like, blends behavioral psychology with faith and practical strategies to kind of come together and to show that financial success is more than just about earning more money, but about building a life that truly aligns with you and your values. Welcome to the podcast.
Oh, well, that was really nice of you to say those things. I appreciate it. Well, I'm happy to be here.
It's an absolute pleasure. And delving into your history, there's so many things I was picking up. I was like, oh, I can't wait to talk to you. And I'm going to go way back like I like to do. And if I was talking to an 8 to 9-year-old version of you, what personality traits would I begin to pick up that kind of give me a better understanding of who you are now?
That's a really good question. If you're looking back when I was 8 or 9 years old, I was a typical boy. I was wild. I had a lot of energy. I probably drove my mom crazy. But I'd say probably persistence would be one of them. But like you talked about diving back, I'd say my childhood of things that happened to me really shaped who I became as time went on.
Were you heavily into sports at that age by then?
I was the middle youngest of 4 wild boys, and my mom probably trying to get energy out of us. We were all heavily in sports. Saturdays and weekends were crazy. My parents were driving this way and that way, dropping us off at different places, picking us up. We were all pretty busy.
Interesting. When I think about I talked about your parents, and you just talked about your being that young and a lot of changes kind of happening to you. How much were you able to focus and concentrate on sports while your surroundings changed? Because I know your parents divorced and things kind of changed for you, and we'll delve into that shortly. But I'm curious, how do you keep the mentality and the focus to stay in the basketball zone that you were? Because obviously you wanted to play basketball at college.
Yeah, I was lucky, and I don't know this is the same for every athlete, but when I stepped on the basketball court or I stepped on the sports field, everything that was going on in my life completely disappeared. It was almost like it was an escape, and not that I meant to do that or went in there with that mentality. It just happened to where I would lose myself in what I was doing, and reality didn't really have a concept. I mean, it's weird to think about now, but it's true that like every problem that I had would go away, and I would focus and get to play, and it was almost like I was a wild Mustang getting to run through the mountains and the hills to where that's all I really noticed. And then I guess obviously when the sport was over, the game was over, the practice was over, and the harsh reality would come back. But for that short time, I was almost like I got to escape everyday life.
Wow, that's it's interesting to hear you say that because I've heard people talk about it the other way around, where because of what's happening in their lives, when they get
Hmm.
on the court or do their sport, they handle it differently because they're still thinking and they're still locked into
Hmm.
that. But for you, it was a good escape and just learning how to switch off and focus on what you need to focus on and then step back into that reality. That's an interesting one.
Yeah, and you kind of brought up an old memory, which is going to sound crazy, but I remember in high school, I had a girlfriend, and we ended up breaking up, and I remember thinking to myself, it was real close to game day, and I said, I'm probably going to have an even better game. Not being mean, but just saying that I would lose myself and not even and think about it, and not that I didn't care about that individual, but that's just how it was with sports with me. When I got on the field or the basketball court, everything else that was going on completely stopped.
And you came from a very good family. You talk about you both of your parents driving you and your brothers back and forth to different sports, and obviously
Hmm.
that changed when your parents divorced. And you've talked about going from like having comfort around you to total financial loss. At that young age, did you realize how much was happening around you, and if so, how much of an impact did it actually have on you, generally speaking?
Always a huge impact. I mean, and it seemed like it happened overnight. Like you said, my father, he was an entrepreneur. Like he owned several businesses. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. I mean, I was 10 years old, and my mom, we were like I said, we were lucky. I didn't really know what I was. Like I said, it was summer of 1996, all up until that point, being 10-year-old, I didn't even know what money was. I mean, really, I didn't. We had a pretty good life. We weren't rich by any means, but we were very comfortable. And yeah, life was really good. And we just had those comforts and security and peace until literally, I remember like it was yesterday. My mom walks into my room, puts her arm around me, and says, "Your dad and I are getting divorced." And that, I mean, that shattered my childhood. I mean, it was over. Any type of comfort disappeared. Um, and my mom went from a stay-at-home mom of four to a single mom of four, working three jobs just to survive.
Wow, kind of imagine what that conversation was like, and even that shift when you talked about downsizing and going to like a mobile home from the house and stuff that you lived in. Did any of that, I guess, understanding of the financial change have an imprint on what you then end up later on doing in life and the work that you do right now?
Oh, absolutely, it did. I mean, it lit a fire in me, and I was part right and part wrong at the time. And I'll explain that. When I was younger, I was part right in sensing that, hey, money and the use of it interjects every aspect of our lives. And we have the choice, either for good or for bad. Not that money is our God and it's the most important thing, but money influences everything. And I just thought that, hey, we went from a pretty comfortable lifestyle to a very poor lifestyle that it was only money. And I got to see firsthand of, the physical toll it took on my family, my mom and brothers. And so, like I said, it lit a fire in me that I wanted to learn everything I could about money, about growth, about protecting it to where I could help people. And not that at an early age I necessarily said, hey, I want to be a financial advisor grow up. It was more about me, like, hey, I wanted that life back. How can I take the steps to do that? And then I guess it was just God's way when I came into the industry, I interned, that I just fell in love with it.
Did you ever think that your path will be down the basketball route to come out of poverty and to change things for you? Because you're a two-time first-time All-American, academic All-American at university as well. So for you,
Hmm.
was a dream basketball athlete that was what you were focusing on at that time?
Well, it's actually two things. When I was 16 years old, I worked at a golf course, and a guy named Rex. And Rex was an interesting human being because Rex is not well, when I say golf course owner, you're probably initially thinking, wow, he's a really rich guy, a real
Yeah.
wealthy guy. Kind of. But this guy was unlike any other golf course owner I met. He actually bought a huge piece of property, was out there on a tractor with people helping him, cutting trees down, designing the golf course. I mean, what kind of golf course owner does that? And so he was more of a blue collar golf course owner. But he taught me about compound interest. For whatever reason, he used to play this game with me called Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and he actually showed me, which changed my life in a wonderful way. And I made nothing. I think I made $5 an hour, which is nothing. I washed golf carts, I shagged the range, but he showed me, hey, if I put a little back in my paycheck every month, by the time I got to my mid 30s, I could have a ton of money there. And it completely changed my outlook of, oh my gosh, I have the power, to actually create wealth, become rich, that my future can be brighter than my past. And that really changed my outlook to where I wanted to learn more about money and propelled me to learn more. Basketball, in the sense, was my way out of a higher education. I never thought I'd get a chance to play professionally, which I did, which was a blessing. I never thought it was going to be my livelihood, but I did see it as an opportunity of, hey, I could get a scholarship because my parents didn't have money. They weren't going to be able to pay for me to go to college. So it was kind of my escape to a higher education, which could propel myself. But it was that one conversation with Rex that I go learning a little bit about money that, oh my gosh, anybody can become rich. Like, you don't have to be rich to become richer. You can start with nothing and just be in discipline a little bit over time that it can happen for you. And I remember that like it was yesterday that a light bulb went off and got really excited.
Oh, was it around the time? I know you said you're earning like $5 an hour, but I also know you had you were very entrepreneurial when you were younger as well. You sold candy at school. You ran a loan business. Like, you did so many different things like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's something around money that was already bubbling, which I know you said your dad had several businesses, so there's something that was already bubbling, but then you come across
Mm-hmm.
someone like him and you're like, oh, okay, there's more to this.
It was. I do remember that, and I got in trouble with the school principal because kids were using their lunch money on the school bus to buy my candy, and so parents started calling up there, and I got in trouble. Well, I really didn't get in trouble. They just told me, "Hey, your candy sales days are over." But yeah, I was always kind of an entrepreneur spirit, but I didn't know about building wealth and how it can compound. And when those two came together, it was music to my ears.
Did you ever think that money is the root of all evil? Because I suppose a man of faith, that's a statement
Mm-hmm.
that you hear
Mm-hmm.
repeated, which is wrong, obviously, when you look at the
Yeah.
Bible. That's not true
Yeah.
what it's talking about. But did you ever grow up hearing that, and was that ever in your frame of reference, even when you were there in the early days?
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's interesting that you bring that up because when you hear things like that, money's evil or this is wrong, especially when you're a kid, you get certain things ingrained in you. We all do, and whether it be right or wrong information gets in. So even if because it absolutely can hurt someone if they subconsciously think money's bad, but they're making all this money. And even if they're doing something right, I mean, even Tony Robbins has a great quote: "The more people you help, the more successful you're going to become." Which is that's a wonderful way to live life, and that's what I love too about entrepreneurship. If you find the right business, if you want to become wealthy, what do you got to do? Help more people. If you help more people, what happens? Usually you become wealthy. So it's a win-win. I love that. But if you have it in your subconscious that becoming wealthy is evil, until I was in church and Pastor Rick had this series. He talked about what the Bible doesn't say. And it was all these different sermons he goes through, really popular topics of saying, hey, people think the Bible says this and doesn't. And the one you just mentioned, root of all evil, or money's evil is one of them, but it's actually the root of all evil. Another one, which you'll find interesting, was gambling, betting. And he was at seminary school, and his buddy comes to him, Pastor Rick, and says, hey, did you know that gambling is a sin? And my pastor goes, I will bet you $100 you can't find anywhere in the Bible that it says gambling's a sin. And his buddy had to come back to him and give him $100 because he was wrong. Now, I'm not saying gambling's right or wrong. I'm just saying that there's a lot of things that I thought the Bible said, just like money's the root of all evil. And so I read the Bible from cover to cover. And it completely changed my life because then you really understand what the Bible says. And there's peace in knowing, not that I'm perfect, I got plenty of shortcomings that I try to overcome, but there's peace in knowing that what you believe in faith and what you believe is divine and how you're trying to live your life, if they align, there's peace in that. And in where if you hear something from somebody that says, oh, did you know the Bible says this, or this is right, or this is wrong, I don't have to argue with them, but I know what the Bible says. And so what you're talking about, it completely changed my life in a great way to where it says, hey, actually the opposite. If you read the Bible and all the gifts and opportunities God gives us, if you try to follow those, again, I'm not perfect, but I try. Those concepts are you're gonna become rich and wealthy. It's going to happen. So it's actually just the opposite. That it's how you use money is actually a blessing.
So a lot of people see money as stress, and some
Hmm.
other people see it as freedom.
Hmm.
What lens do you believe like faith brings to that conversation to bring those two, what seems like outliers,
Hmm.
together and create some clarity?
Absolutely. And actually, money can be an incredible blessing or it can be incredible hardship. I mean, we
Mm.
have the choice on how we handle it. I would say it's the faith of knowing that, hey, after you read the Bible and see what it says, and the concepts that the faith of going, okay, if I create these habits, if I follow this game plan of what the Bible lays out, I am going to have a rich life and a wealthy life. It's the faith of knowing that. And so, but yes, I would say it's both hands. Money can cause incredible joy, incredible fun, excitement, but it can also cause incredible hardship and pain. It's just what habits do we have and how do we view it?
How do you then work with people who can be like, well, I'm working hard and doing all I can, and I still don't seem to be making. I mean, if you look at your upbringing, you had your mom working three jobs, and you
Mm-hmm.
seeing that and knowing just a woman of faith and growing up in that kind of environment, and then you
Mm-hmm.
now step into that further down the line, you can easily see sometimes there's a resentment. It's like, yeah, but God doesn't listen to me, or faith doesn't make much of a difference. This is just all baloney. How do
Mm-hmm.
you actually help people to get their mind right and think about it very, very differently despite their circumstances?
Absolutely, absolutely, it's a great question because I've been very lucky. I've been doing this a long time, and so I have so many experiences, not only personally in my own life, but working with families that I can talk about. Hey, let me tell you some success stories. Like my mom, I remember calling my mom and saying, "Mom, you." First of all, I called her, and now that I have kids, I admire what she did even more. Because if
Mm.
I'm so lucky to have my wife Chelsea, if something happened to her and I was a single parent, oh my gosh, I'd be in so much trouble. Like my heart goes out to all single parents. It's amazing what they do. So I asked my mom, I said, Mom, how did you do it? Like what gave you hope? Like how were you getting through the days? And she told me, she said she would take, start out with just $10. That's all she could afford every month, $10, and she'd put in a little white envelope and she started saving it away. And just that single act of small baby steps to start building towards the life that she wants, it brought joy to her life, gave her hope and excitement. And so that's one thing that I work with people on, especially that are going through hard times, is okay, hey, I know times are tough right now. I get it. I'm sorry. My heart's with you. I'm right here with you. Let's start working together. Let's talk about the life you do want then. Times right now is not what you want. What do you want? So you first have to clarify that. Hey, where are we going? What's the life that we want? What are the big problems that we need to have strategies and solutions for? Who in your life is important to you? Who are we doing this for? Because if something's worth achieving, it's got to be worth it. And then we start doing actionable steps. Okay, hey, what baby steps can we start taking? Because Rome wasn't built in a day. You know that. Microsoft, these big billion-dollar companies, they're not built in a day. It takes time, but it's all about those consistent daily habits that we build that get us towards where we want to be. That's what I would recommend. That's how I work with people of saying, hey, okay, we're not happy now. What is going to make us happy? And then what can we start doing? And that's where you start seeing the joy and the stress start to roll off their shoulders because they start saying, okay, there is light at the end of the tunnel.
What was it that you did on your journey to help you get to where you're at now? You finish college, you start trading, you go on this
Mm-hmm.
career path. When did you make that choice and that decision? Be like, this is the life I want, and here's how I'm going to go ahead and get it.
Yeah, I was actually lucky. I'd say it's two part. One, first part is I've had so many people that God put into my life that has helped me. I mean, from mentors to people that care about me. There's no way I could be where at without a lot of help and God's grace. But the second thing, the first thing, or the second part of that would be I had a mentor, and it was actually a coach and someone who really changed my life. Is he had me create what's called a vision statement. It's almost like pretending I'm 110 years old and I'm in a rocking chair and I'm looking back over my life. What specifically has to happen for me to go, okay, this was an amazing life. I did it. And it's not just, hey, I want to retire, I want this much money. No, it's the details. I want to travel here. I want to have these type of relationship with my kids. I want this type of relationship with my wife. This is my dream house. It's Tuesday afternoon and I'm 50 years old. What am I doing? what's going to like set my soul on fire. And when my wife and I did that together, and we really started to map out, hey, these are the things. Now it changes over time, that's normal, but these are the things that we're really wanting. Let's start building towards that. That's when it really took a turn for the better and said, okay, this is what we're doing together. This is exciting. Let's get to work.
Oh. When you went on that journey, were you already with your wife then, or was that further along when you met her?
No, we were already together when that changed. And to be honest with you, we were struggling with kind of getting on the same page with money. You know, when we first got married, and I was wrong. I was young and I was dumb, but I thought I was a financial advisor, right? That's my profession. So I thought I should be the financial advisor for our family. I should handle the money and set things up because in my mind, I wanted to give her everything. Like she's it for me. Like it was, if we talked about her, she would see a house that was pretty, and she just wanted to say, "Hey, that's a pretty house." I took it as, "Oh, that's the house she wants. I got to get it for her now." And I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but I just felt that in my heart. But we got into a money disagreement, and she kind of said something to me again, and we were kind of spinning our wheels. We were having the same conversations, and it was, "Hey, I want to know that we're in this together." And I thought about that comment for a while, and she was right. Like we never sat down and said, okay, hey, what's the exact life that we want? What are the emotions that you're seeking? What are the type of relationships that you want to have? Where do you see our life in 10 years? Not just, hey, we're making progress or we're good parents and we got good kids. No, it's specifically. And so when we started to do that, it's like we really came together as one of, okay, hey, this is what we're working towards, and we got excited about it, and we got to stay on the same page, and things started moving. Now we also learned a lot about each other. There's things on my list and her list that we didn't know about each other, things that we wanted, but we had a lot that were the same. But at that point our relationship took a big step forward of, okay, hey, we're in this together, all voices are heard, this is what we're building for, this is excitement. And then saving and investing becomes fun, because before that, is saving that fun? I mean, you're losing money. You can't do all do it. I mean, saving's not fun. I'm an investment guy. I get it. Taking money out of our paychecks to put back for the future, there's nothing fun about that. I want to live now. I want to go do things now. But when you do that, you get really clear about the future that's going to bring you joy, the things that you want to accomplish, and you do that with your spouse. Then saving and building become fun because, like I said, you're not just saving, you're building. And there's a lot of passion and energy, good energy in that.
That's such a powerful statement to be able to make of building together and changing the trajectory. And I kind of want to take a step back before that because you said, I'm the expert in this. I'm trained in this. I'm looking after this, and everything I'm doing is for the family, which a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people, especially guys, will think that way.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the conversation with your wife and you listened. How do you learn to, for want of a better word, lay down the ego to actually be able to listen and have that real talk conversation when you're in that space of, I'm doing this for us and I'm the expert, right? That's an ego thing for you to actually be able to have that conversation.
Yeah, and it was actually a progression. It wasn't overnight. It's that we kept having those same conversations, and when she said that, it kind of light bulb went off, and we were. It was like we were stuck in quicksand. We couldn't get past these conversations, and so I went to a couple of friends of mine, a couple in Bible study, a couple mentors, and I kind of told them this is what's going on, and they gave me some books to read, and they weren't. Some of them weren't about money. They were about women. They were about marriage, relationships, and I was getting it wrong in the sense that in the Bible it talks about leave, cleave, and become one flesh. And in my mind, I get that, but I really didn't understand what that means. And I'm still trying to learn. I still don't understand it all, but I'm still trying to learn to get better. But one of the parts is we didn't really come together of, hey, what is it that you want? What does that look like? What are things that we can do together and really, voices? Because sometimes what I thought and she thought, might have been a little different. Let me understand her better. And so it was a progression of reading those books, getting advice, and then the light bulb comes off and goes, oh, man, I was doing this all wrong. I wasn't even close. It was, and it was, and at that point in time, my ego had already been shot because we were having these talks and disagreements about money, and we weren't making forward progress. To where I call it outwardly successful, inwardly stressed. And what that means is on the outside, I see, business. I'm a successful financial advisor. I'm growing. I'm a partner with the firm. Everything's going good. But then at home, my wife and I just seemed like the happiness wasn't growing with it. It's not like we were fighting and yelling, but it's more like we're still having these same conversations. We're not getting over this. So the ego was already gone of, hey, something's got to change. Like I'm doing something wrong or something. I'm missing something. So at that point, I had to go searching for answers.
I love that. Outwardly successful, inwardly stressed. Also,
Mm-hmm.
you said, man, I was like, there's so many people, especially leaders, that you see navigating that, where they look like everything looks amazing, their careers are going up there, but there's so much angst inside, whether they're burnt out, whether there's stuff that's going on at home, and they just need to have that space here to have that conversation. But it's hard and it's tough. So that's such a good example just to listen to. Even you saying that it didn't happen overnight. It took
Mm-mm.
time and we had to keep on going through it,
Mm-hmm.
but we got there. And look what happens
Mm-hmm.
when you eventually do. That's a good example.
It is, and don't miss it. A lot of help of people that God's placed in my life that I call and say, "Hey, this is what's going on." It's interesting. Two things I'll say is, I was in a Bible study group one time, and we had individuals from 25 all the way up to 80 years old, 75, 80. So it was a big, diverse group, and these seven men took the time to get up there and share their life story and what they were dealing with, and it was incredible, and it was very vulnerable, and I'm talking things to deal with in their marriage and infidelity, things to do with money, certain addictive behaviors. I mean, all different things. But you start to realize that, especially, and this is a men's Bible study group, so I'm speaking from the man's perspective, is that we all deal with the same stuff. Maybe not every single one, but we're all dealing with stuff. And when you understand that and go, okay, it's okay to call on a friend. It's okay to call on a mentor, someone in my Bible study, and say, hey, I'm dealing with this. Can you help me? Most of the time, they've been through it before they're dealing with something. So that I've been very lucky with that, and it goes back to the stat, APA, American Psychological Association, which is founded in 1892. It's one of the largest research groups in the United States. They say that 90% of Americans are stressed about money.
Mm.
90%, 70% are experiencing extreme stress. So you talked about outwardly successful, inwardly stressed. I mean, think about the neighborhood you live in. 9 out of 10 houses are going through something. 7 out of 10 are going through something big. That's most of the world. But if you look on Facebook and social media, they'd say the world is great, or they make it look like the world's great. But we're all dealing with stuff. So it's okay to say, hey, I'm dealing with this. What can I do to get better? Or help me. I need help. That's okay.
Mm. To have the courage and the boldness to be able to ask for help is
Mm-hmm.
such a powerful thing. But then that's when you know that you're not the only one going through it, or you can learn from some of the examples you just shared of people just coming together and be like, "This is what we're going through. This is what we're navigating," and it's great to
Yeah.
hear when it's like, "It's not just me." So
Mm.
that really does feel good
Mm.
when you hear those things.
It is, and like I said, I was lucky because the men that did this, from the outside looking in, and they're amazing men. They're super successful. I mean, very successful. If they wouldn't have shared some of these things, I would have never known. And it just made me realize that, hey, we're all going through stuff. It's okay. Does that make we're bad people or we're failures as human beings? And the answer is no. Where we fail is when we don't seek help or try to improve.
When you think about your life, your career, the books that you've written, the people that you've helped, what would you say is the biggest thing you've had to unlearn in your journey to help you move forward and get to where you are now?
Oh, unlearn. That's a really good question. Um, this would be a learn, unlearn is the same thing as control is an illusion. To unlearn the fact that I can control everything or we can control everything because there's just so many things that we can't control. There's a great quote out there that talks about, hey, um, work towards the things that you can control, worry about those, pray about the things you can't control. And that's what's great about, our relationships and finances. To some element, we can control those. We can be intentional. We can control our actions every day of what we're building towards and what we want to achieve. Like today, I can wake up today and attack the day and handle my own actions and what I'm working for and work as hard as I can towards those goals, whether it be finances, personal, faith, all the different things, fitness, health, and wellness. Um, I can control that. but there's a lot of things in this world I can't control. And so that's one thing that I had to unlearn and slash learn in the process.
Oof. You said that there was something inside of me that was like, ooh, that's that's
Hmm.
it's a powerful and tough one because when I think about, I'm a man of faith myself as well, but so many times it's when you're praying about things, there is this side of you that wants also, it's not happening quick enough.
Hmm.
And you also want to step into it and take control and
Hmm.
learning to be able to be like, no, this is my work to do and this is what I'm praying about. I don't need to lean into it. I need to trust God and know that He will navigate that scenario because I can't do everything and I can't control that.
Hmm.
It's tough.
It's very tough. I think back on my life, how many things did I pray for that I didn't get, but turned out to be a blessing that I did not get what I wanted?
Mm,
And then how many times in my life, this is my own personal growth where I'm trying to continue to work on, how many times do I go through something tough where it takes me a while to turn it over to God and say, okay, God, I'm dealing with this. Please help me. And sometimes that takes me too long. I try to do it myself. So I would agree with you.
I was reading up about you. Obviously, I read that you had the point in your life where you were offered like 8.1 million to then work for
Hmm.
another firm, and you and your wife made a decision to walk away from that. I was like, wow, that either you have a lot of money, or there's a serious amount of value
Yeah.
and conviction at play for you to be able to make that decision. Like, this is not it. I'm not going just for the money, but there's so much more. Like,
Hmm.
can you talk us through that scenario, that situation, and what led you to actually turning that down and that decision?
Yeah, and if you asked me 10 years before I made that move, I would have said you're crazy. Like if someone offers me that amount of money, I'm gone. Yeah, sign. Where do I sign? And it was, but I started to see cracks in the industry. I mean, this is not every financial advisor, every financial firm, but there's a lot out there where corporate greed is real. Bottom
Mm,
dollar thinking is real. Like I had a very good friend. He's 25 years older than I am in the financial industry. He once told me the story where it involved him and his manager at the time of the firm that he's working for came up to him because they were having a disagreement over a situation with a client. He said, "Hey, listen," the manager did goes, "There's three parties in every financial situation. There's the financial firm, there's the financial advisor, and there's the client." And the manager goes, "Only two need to make money." How bad is that? And that was never told to me, but I started to see things like that. And I started to realize that, hey, if I took that money, it would be completely selfish of me. That it would be all about Nick, and you know, I wouldn't be putting my clients in a situation because the firm that I was going to go to, they would have been taking advantage of my clients, would have made that money back off my clients and the families that I serve. And once I saw that and other things that were going on, I did. I went home to my wife and I said, I can't do this. And I told her kind of my vision, what I wanted to do, and it was so simple. She 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 didn't even make it tough on me. She just goes, okay, let's do it. I mean, to her, it was that simple, which is that's just how amazing she is. And like I said, we didn't. Once we saw what we saw, and I told her, it wasn't even an issue. I mean, I didn't even look back. And we didn't look back. And again, it was God's grace. And we're so happy because of it. Because we got to do things our way. We got to set things up our way and how we feel that we best serve families and make a positive influence on their life. And what's great, too, is we get to continue that forward. And that's exciting.
what would you say walking away from a deal like that kind of unlocked for you in terms of, I guess, clarity and
Hmm.
conviction, and obviously the impact you've gone on to have?
Yeah, it talks about what we think as human beings. Because most of the time, all of us, myself included, at some point, you think, I want to have. I want things. I want stuff. I want to
Mm,
have. And then with the next thing we think of is, okay, I must do. What activities, what I must do. But we never think about who we must become. Because that's first. Who we become. Who am I? Who am I becoming? Am I leveling them up? Am I becoming a person of higher integrity? Am I becoming more intelligent? Am I a person that has better habits and work ethic and perseverance? Because the goal is to become first. The better person we become, the better leader. Like I was talking to my wife and I this week, we have a nonprofit, go around high schools, we teach kids about money because someone did that for us. And I was talking to the kiddos, and I said, hey, think about this. If you had a $5 million company, and be serious, you don't have to answer out loud, but would you hire yourself as CEO to run that $5 million company, that $10 million company? Be honest. Okay, so now who do you become? And I had them think about before that the life they want. Now I told them, who do you need to become to have that life that you want, those goals that you're very passionate about? You know, what kind of education level? And it doesn't mean school, and it could be reading good books, having a good mentor, getting coaching. So that's the thing is, what I learned is how when we become better as individuals, and it takes time, other things, success and other things like that will, you have confidence and you bet on yourself, and with God's, your faith in Christ, you can do anything you want, in the sense of you can accomplish goals and help people. And so that's the number one thing I learned is, when you make a decision like that and you bet on yourself and you put in the time and you make the right decisions and it's based on helping other people, and you work towards becoming a better person and trying to master the job that you're in, because like I said, when I learn more, I'm able to help more people and I'm able to better help those people. That's exciting. So that's what I learned is when you become and work on yourself and growing, everything else will take care of itself.
Do you think much about legacy, your legacy, and your impact?
That's a really good question. An answer from after I'm gone, and the answer is probably no. My wife and I had a conversation before the book came out. I made a joke and said, hey, even if no one buys this book, it's for us always to talk to our kids. And in the book, at the end of every chapter, there's a QR code because I wanted the book to come alive. And so my wife and I, it was a lot of fun. We got to create these videos together at the end of every chapter. We talk about our lives and the topics within the chapter, our successes and failures. And so it was kind of fun to where it's our way of still talking to our children after we're gone. But outside of that, no, not a lot of legacy. I really love what I do and I love helping people. If that's a legacy, wonderful. But I think, what is it? Our kids are probably our greatest legacy. They're our greatest assets. So we try to pour into our children as much as we can. But that's a really good question.
Do your kids want to take after you and do what daddy's doing?
You know what? I hope and wish. I'd be excited. I'd be doing backflips down the highway if it was. But I played basketball, and everyone always asks me, "Hey, are your kids gonna play basketball?" And I always tell them, if my kids want to play basketball, wonderful. Now I'd probably be excited if they did, yes, but I don't ever force them to do that because they're their own individuals. They're their own human beings. What I try to do with them is, I talk to them about this, is like pretend they're a superhero. And their superheroes wear belts. And on those belts, I try to give them different tools and their traits, such as perseverance, work ethic, integrity. I try to help them learn those secrets of successful traits that when they figure out what they want to do, they can go at it with all their heart and all their passion. That's my goal for them.
It's a great way of approaching things. I would say that with two kids. I would say that my role as a dad and me and my wife
Mm-hmm.
is to put them in environments where they can get to decide what it is that they want to do.
Great
And
tip.
whatever choice that they have, then we support them and go with them. It's not about us putting on them like do this, do that. I
Mm-hmm.
remember my son was younger and was brilliant at football, soccer, and
Mm-hmm.
his coach was like, he's absolutely amazing. I'm like, he is when he's here. When he went back at home, he has absolutely no interest. He's not doing any extra special training.
Mm-hmm.
And I know other kids are out there doing that because they wanna play. Whereas he's very talented, but this
Mm-hmm.
is not what his purpose is, and I'm not gonna force him to do that. And he was like, "Why?" I was like, "Because it's not my life. Like,
Yeah, that's it.
I don't need to live." I'm like, "Yes, he has an absolute talent, and you can see that, and he got scouted." But I'm not
Mm-hmm.
gonna force him to do something. Whereas the other areas, like he was amazing at drumming, and he would go home and he would just practice without me having to say anything.
Mm-hmm.
Practice. I'm like, provide the drum kit for him. He does that. We'll get him a teacher. He does that because I see that's what he wanted to do at that point
Yeah.
in time in his life.
That is, and I think that's such wonderful. And you and I are on the same page because I think that all of us, think about my own life and your life, is some are young when they're younger at 10, 15, 25. Some are 35 years old. But we get to a point in life where we realize, okay, this is what I want to do the rest of my life. this is what God made me to do, how I can help the most people. My goal is to keep training them up as individuals, remember who they become, to when that happens, whatever age, they're prepared to go at it and they can find whatever level of success that they want. It's because it happens to all of us. All of us wake up one day and go, okay, now I know what I want. Now, hopefully, it happens younger rather than older, but sometimes it's later on in life. That's fine too. But that was my goal, and whatever that is, they're equipped, prepared as much as they can be.
Now, in your book, one of them is like Rich by Choice, Taking Back Control. Do you think being rich is a choice?
I do. I really, really do, because let's talk about that. The book, and it was a marketing scheme, Rich by Choice, the name, but two words in there, rich and choice. And I talk about that in the book. And I talk about, hey, when I use the word rich and I use the word wealthy, I'm not just talking about money. I want people to have a million times where their grandkids and kids give them hug and kisses. I want you to have $1 million worth of incredible, memories with your family and loved ones. That's the true riches of life. Yes, money is one aspect of that. It's a very important one, but there's also other riches in life, and the second one is a choice. We absolutely have a choice. I mean, look at people like Gandhi and Nelson Mandela and incredible people of in history where you would look at their life from the outside and go, man, that's a tough life. But remember, Nelson Mandela talked about it. He said he would not give up his mind. He had control over his mind, and what he perceived he could achieve, in the sense of, hey, we have a choice to be rich and happy. That is a choice we make. Every day when we wake up, we can be grateful for what we have. And John Templeton Sr. talks about that. He says, when we're grateful for those things, we will attract more of those things. And so I do believe richness is a choice, because think about it. Money is subjective. There's people around the world that make, Saudi princes, when it comes to oil and gas, they make millions upon millions of dollars every minute. Okay? Now, I don't know if they're happy or not. I hope they are. But it's not just the dollars and cents. It's how do you use your money? How are you living your life? That's where true richness and joy come in. And yes, I do believe we have a choice for that. Because I met people that I would say, hey, this is how much money they have. And you might think, oh, that's not a lot of money. But I tell you what, they're the happiest people you ever meet. And God bless them for it. So the money part's subjective. But we absolutely have a choice to be happy. And I do believe everybody can be rich, yes.
So is there balance to be struck between gratitude and being grateful for everything that you have and what God has given you,
Mm-hmm.
but yet still aspiring for more? Because sometimes people's like, okay, I've got enough. So,
Mm-hmm.
but I know I want some more. But should I really? It feels a little bit guilty me doing it. But so that back and forth, like how do you
Yeah.
kind of navigate that?
Yeah, I would say, well, the what I try to do is, okay, what is your definition of more? Is it just, and what is the purpose behind it? Now, I'm not saying this is me all the time, but the goal would be, okay, is my purpose just to have a bigger house and a nicer car so I can impress all the people that I don't like? Is that it? Or is it I'm trying to be more because I want to become a better person, because the better person I become, the more people I can help, and yes, success might follow that. So it's all keeping things in perspective. And even the Bible talks about that. It really does. It talks about, hey, it's okay to desire things, but what is your motive behind it? That's what you always want to be cognizant of. What am I chasing, but why am I chasing that? And there's nothing wrong with chasing things. That's that. Well, there's a great slogan out there. It's called the journey, not the destination. That it's
Hmm.
because on the journey, it's who we become. Man, it goes back to who do we become. So I think that's okay. Now we should all peel back the onion and go, okay, now why do I want that? Whatever be a thing or a life, what's the purpose behind that? And there's positives and negatives to that.
When you earlier you shared about your mom's journey, and she shared how she's just saving money bit by bit.
Mm-hmm.
When you're working with families nowadays and you see some of them who are where your mom was when you were younger and you're helping them out, is there a part of you that it just feels like, I don't know, it's like paying back the younger version of you and you're doing something in a way that you couldn't do when you were that stage of life?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it is. It's very rewarding because at that stage in life, I couldn't do anything. I was 10 years old. I was helpless. I had a lady come into my office, and she just got through a terrible divorce. I mean, her husband left her. She was just crying. I mean, she could barely even speak. She was crying so hard. And I remember asking, literally praying to God, "Hey, God, tell me what to say here because I don't know what to say." I mean, she's just devastated. And actually, God didn't tell me what to say. And we were talking about the the unanswered prayers because the best move for me at the time was not to say anything, just sit there with her and just be present and hand her tissues. As she went through a divorce and we continued to work together, she found what I call her money emotion because it's not money we want, it's what money can do for us. She wanted independence and she said it. She goes, "Independence. I never want to have to rely on someone else again." How
Wow,
powerful is that?
that is powerful.
It is at that moment I saw her, and she's an incredible woman. Fast forward to today, she's a multimillionaire. She is financially independent. She has found love again, but she's doing it on her own terms. I mean, how incredible is that? And so I can tell you stories after stories just like that. And if you ask her, she would say, "Hey, she went through our wealth management process and all the different ways that we help her, but it was her, and it's about her life. It's not just the dollars and cents, but she achieved what she wanted to because she became very clear about what she wanted." And so, yes, when we help people and we have all these success stories just like that, it is very fulfilling. It really is. And because I've lived through it. I mean, I can relate. I mean, I went from a well to do kid to a poor kid. I went from a wealthy adult to a poor adult back to a wealthy adult. And what I mean from wealthy to poor is, again, outwardly successful, inwardly stressed. I think even though wealth, my dollars were growing, I was still poor because I still wasn't achieving the joy and happiness that I wanted to. And so I can relate. And yes, it gives me great satisfaction to help people.
Is there ever anyone that walks through your door and you think, okay, this is I can't do anything. There is no hope here, or is everyone you're like, okay, we can work with this.
Yes, I've actually come across families before where their motives behind money weren't great, and I couldn't be a part of it. And I have said no many times. In fact, actually, I said no to a very, very wealthy family that if I said their name, most people in the United States in my area would know who they are. But the reason I said no was because I just didn't align. Not that I think I'm better than them. It's just their motives and what the things they want to do. It wasn't the direction I try to lead people. And so yes, I do tell people no. But if somebody comes into my office, because think about it, where I came from and how much help I've received. If someone comes to my office and they're serious about money, they're serious about wanting help, and they're wanting to use money for the right reasons to better their lives and better their loved ones around them, I'm all game. Let's do it. I'll try to the best of my ability to help them. I get excited about that.
So for you, it's more than just money. It's more than just the financial
Oh,
freedom or that kind of stuff. It's more really about the person and what you're doing, the intention behind why you're doing what you're doing. That's very much key to a decision that you make whether you're going to
oh,
work with that person or not.
Oh, 100%. I mean, that's what gets me going. I mean, that's why I wake up in the morning. When I talk to people, when I was a young financial advisor, I wanted to be this big shot, high rise, because I said the number one thing I love to help people with is make them money, and I'm really good at it. But now, after Fusion, when I started working, it flipped where that's still important, and I'm still really good at it. But the number one thing I love the most is watching them spend it and how they use it and how they structure it and spend it. Not mean just go out and frivolously waste it. No, but how do you set up your life where money is a tool that we use to build, to grow, to protect, and not just the money, but what's important to you, who's important to you. And so that's what I get excited about. That those are some of my favorite meetings of okay, this is putting the puzzle pieces together on what you want, what you're worried about, how can we overcome these obstacles while building the life that we're so desired. That I mean, I get really pumped about that. I mean, I get excited, and so that's what really drives me.
Do you recognize how different that approach is? I know a couple of people here in the UK who are financial planners who think very similar to you, but I would say to them as well, and I listened to you talk, it just came to mind, I was like, do you understand how different that is? Because normally it's like, I'm a financial planner. Someone comes to
Hmm.
you got the money, great. I help you get more money. And you're like, no, it's not just about the money you have. It's about what you try to do with it.
Well,
That's a different approach.
Well, I do, but you know what? And that's what's great about being a business owner is that you get to do what's on your heart and in the direction that you want to build something or lead people. And like if I worked for corporate America, and I'm not saying it's wrong, I might not be able to do that, but absolutely. You know, when I first sit down with people, this happens all the time. The first thing they sit down with me and they start talking about debt or investments or this percentage, that, all these different financial terms, which is great. But I always stop them and I'll say, hey, we're going to get to that. And that's all important, but I care more about you and your family than I do your money. And I
Mm,
literally, with us, we spend 2, 3 meetings, hours upon hours, talking more about life, their family, things they're dealing with, what keeps them up at night, where do they want to be, not just now, but in the future. Remember that story about my wife and I, the vision statement? We
yeah.
have them complete it, and it's in detailed form, not just, hey, I want $10 million or I want $1 million or whatever dollar amount. I want to retire. That's a big one. I want to retire. No, okay, what does retirement look like for you? What are you doing? You have 4 kids. If one moves out of state, are we buying a second house there? Are we traveling there once a month? Are we just there on Christmas? And there's no wrong or right answer to any of these. It's just, what life do you want? What's on your heart? Okay, now that we know that, now let's start talking about the money and making sure things are alive. Can we do it? Is it sustainable? How do we get there? Are you going to be okay? And you know what? What's great about this is they can change their mind 2 years later and say, hey, we thought we wanted this, but we really want that. But the point is when we're gonna die, and we're all gonna die someday. Have you ever met someone that says, "Man, I wish I had more money, or I would have worked more"? Does anybody ever say that? No, they talk about their experiences, the people they love, a life well lived, possibly, hopefully not, but it does happen. Regrets.
Mm,
No one talks about finances. And so finances are important. Absolutely. It intersects when we have the chance to use it as a tool, but that's not what life's about. Now, we do need money, and it's very important. And to make better financial decisions and improve your financial situation absolutely can lead to, a better life. I say it makes the good times better and the bad times not as bad, but you're still going to have ups and downs in life. So it's all about the life well lived rather than the dollars and cents.
I love that. And I'm very much aligned to that because part of the work that my company does is exec coaching. And I always say
Okay?
that we don't look at the person from a professional, it's the personal and professional come together, the human. That's
Yeah.
what's going to make the most difference. And it's very much like how you're talking about. It's like, we'll get to that later, but what's going to be you? Because that's the key.
It
That's the key
is.
that needs to be unlocked the most, that people don't spend the time. They'll look at the thing or the tool, which is money.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
the actual mindset and mentality is very, very different. So having the financial plan actually think that way is such a powerful way because they can see so many different things and connect the dots in ways that you probably wouldn't. That
Mm-hmm.
then ultimately leads to that end goal, which is the money bit. But you
Mm-hmm.
helping them navigate that is really good to hear.
Well, and again, I was lucky because in my profession, think about it. When I was early on in my profession, I got to sit down with very, very successful people and successful families. Not just success in money, but success in life. And I get the privilege of seeing behind the curtains into their life.
Mm,
What works, what doesn't, how'd they do this? And you start to see similar traits, similar habits, similar lifestyles. Not that they all agree on the favorite soccer team or the favorite color or favorite. No, but it's similar attributes on, like I said, a life well lived to lead. But you also start to hear too common things to negative aspects of people's lives. And so when you start putting these together, and then you combine that with when I read the Bible from cover to color, you start seeing rhymes and reasons why things don't just happen. Now I'm talking about long term. Yes, life's going to throw you curveballs. That's going to happen, but it's not what happens to us. It's how we react to what happens to us and overcome to get to a point down the road. So I was very lucky early on to see that, and so you start putting these things together. Okay, what really matters, and you keep things in perspective that way.
Based on that, are there patterns that you see repeat across families regardless of income level?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's so many. I mean, everything. So, um, yeah. I mean, so okay. Let's talk about patterns. One big thing in the United States, I'm sure it's all around the world. Think about you and myself both. You have 2 kids, correct? I heard you say that correctly.
Yeah.
Okay. What's the greatest thing as a parent? What's the number one thing you want for your kids? To be what?
Joyful?
Yeah, happy, right? I mean, you want them to live a happy life. That's the number one thing. Okay, in the United States right now, do you know that most inheritance is dried up and gone? It's like 70% of the time within the first generation, 95% gone in the second generation. So what that means is essentially everything that we build up, we're built up because we want to give our kids a better life than we have. All the opportunities, all the runway to them to do what they want to do. And that might be, it's not just money, but money is one of them. Is that when money's passed on in the United States, it's not being used for what we want. If I was talking to you and I said, hey, two options. One is you build up wealth, whatever that is for you, and you pass on to your kids. The two options would be: would you like to see them suck it dry and waste it, or would you like to see them use it as a springboard that propels their life, forward and gives them security, financial security, the rest of their life? Which one would it be? It's pretty obvious, right? You want them that. Okay, so two things. 85% of that problem can be fixed with two solutions or two activities. 85% of the whole inheritance problem of what we leave on to our kids. Number one is obviously, yes, financial education. Teaching our kids about money. In the United States right now, there's like 87% of parents said that, hey, my kids learn everything about money from school. 89% of kids are saying they learn everything about money from their parents. So there's a disconnect that we're not doing a good enough, myself included, not doing a good enough job teaching our kids money education, money literacy, and talking about it. But the second biggest problem is called empowerment. Most of the conversations I hear in patterns of issues when it comes to passing money on, using it for good, is most parents will go home and say, hey son, hey daughter, I just spoke with my estate attorney, or I just did my estate planning for after we pass. You're getting half. Good luck. Or you're getting a percentage, or that's the extent of conversations. So when you say patterns, I'd say communication. What I mean by that is, if you want success in passing inheritance from one generation to the next, and your kids to springboard what you give them, is okay, hey son, hey daughter. And statistically speaking, the more you tell them, the better, at an appropriate age, obviously. But hey, let me open up the books. Let me show you what's coming to you. This is going to be yours one day. Okay? The next step is, hey son, I just told you this is going to be yours. If I died today, tell me, what would you do with it? And then we don't talk and listen. Empower them to speak. Ask them about their investment strategies. How would you use this? What would you go out and buy? What would be your overall goal? Get really, why is that? Remember that great question, why? Why? But then you go a step further and say, okay, let me tell you how your mom and I built this. Let me tell you about the core principles and values we did during 2007, during the Great Recession, 2001, the 9/11 attacks and the dot-com crisis, during COVID when things were up and down. Let me tell you how we put back and save, and we had a giving strategy and mission that God put on our heart, and we stuck with it. These are the habits that we use to build. Just those two, which sounds simple, right? What I'm telling you sounds simple. Nobody's doing it. Do you know people in the United States right now, actually all around the world, families with $100 million plus, which is a lot of money, they're hiring institutions to take their families on retreats, and they do these exact activities, and they create mission statements and goals and empower the next generation to prepare them. You'd say, well, yeah, Nick, they're going to get $100 million. That they should be prepared. I would say, I had a client the other day with $3 million. I showed them that, hey, if their kids live off a small percentage, let it compound. By the next generation, it's going to be 12 million. It's going to be 20 million. So these strategies I'm talking about, they're important for families with a lot of money. But even if you're going to give a small, whatever it is, prepare your kids, because you're not just passing on money, you're passing on values and traits by talking about these things that lead to success. So when you talk, so communication's huge. So you're talking about these things, and that's just one area, but there's tons of common habits and common situations when it comes to, all these, because there's many different forms and situations and life stages that I see. But yes, there's a lot of commonalities that lead to success, or lead, I don't want to use the word failure, but hardship. Yeah.
That's what happens.
Yeah.
It's quite good to hear you even use that as an example, because when I asked that question, there's a part of me was like, oh, this is going to be very complex. But
Mm-hmm.
actually, just be like, no, it's not. It's it's just because
No.
you don't think about it, you don't talk about it. But actually,
Mm-hmm.
it's very very simple, very very straightforward to ensure that the
Yeah.
patterns don't repeat themselves. And I think so many times you hear the phrase around, let's break generational curses and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, this is one of them. Money is one of
Yeah.
them. How do you do that? Well, it's communication.
Talk about
It's
it.
being intentional, talking about it and laying things out and doing things differently. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to be complex. You just need to be willing to lean in and have those kind of conversations. So I really like that as an example. And it got me thinking, how do you then discern or help people discern the difference between reckless risk and courageous risk? Because I know
Mm-hmm.
sometimes people are like, yeah, but if I tell my kids they're getting this,
Mm-hmm.
and they might start acting a particular way,
Yeah.
or how do I don't know their risk tolerance, for
Yeah.
example. So you got to think like, how do you help people discern between this is reckless and don't do
Mm-hmm.
that, and this is courageous? Makes sense.
Yeah.
Lean in and try it out.
Absolutely. So what you just said, going off what you said, hey, if I tell my kids or show them this, maybe they'll start acting like this. And what you probably meant was if I show them this, which is the money that could be coming to
Money,
them or
yeah.
big money, and they start acting differently, which is probably what you meant is like, hey, if they start acting bad or negative or this or that. Let me ask you a question. Would you rather still be alive and see that personality trait come out in your kids to where you're still alive and you can start working with them on that, or you've already passed and there's nothing you can do and they don't have a good mentor in yourself to help them?
Rather be here so I can guide them.
And so now I'm not saying when my kid's 12 years old I should open up the books and say, "Hey, son, this is kind of let's start talking." No, I'm saying at an appropriate age where hey, it's because the thing is it's coming to them. And but how much of a joy is like a lot of that what we build, and it's not just money, but it's a life and it's
Mm.
character. But we want to give it to our kids, and we think about that. I mean, you think about that, right? I mean, hey, I want to build this whatever it is up and pass it on to my kids where they can use it as a stepping stone. It's a desire burning in us as human beings. Okay, why not start preparing our kids from it? And again, it goes back to it's not just a one-time conversation. It's a ongoing conversation of hey, and the thing is, and I talk about this in my book, and I like this, and I'll tell you why. When I do, my wife and I read books together, and it's great. We'll read marriage books. We don't even got to be going through a tough time in our marriage. We just continue to do this because it opens up the flow of communication. I love the books that are dummy proof, and what I mean by that is they tell me exactly what to say, word for word. Hey, babe, dot dot dot, where I can just read it and it just makes it simple for me because I'm not an expert in relationships, so I like it. I do that in the book to where you can just ask these questions and really you don't preach to them. You're opening up a dialogue, and I talk about this when they respond. Don't criticize, don't but get a real good scope of where they're at, what they're thinking, and then you can kind of talk to them about it. And you're starting to build, and it's not like you're going to build a perfect child, son, daughter overnight that they're ready to take on the world, but it's just like anything else, just like soccer. You go to work, you practice, you get a little better, and it compounds on itself.
I definitely want people to go out and get the book. And obviously, you heard about having that QR code you can scan and you can make
Mm-hmm.
it a little bit more interactive. But is there one question, if there's one question you could share with the audience that they need to be asking, what question would it be?
Oh, the biggest question is, it would go back to if you're 120 years old looking back, 110 years old looking back over your life. What's the exact life that you have to live for you to just go with a big smile, go, I did it. Like, what a ride. Um, and then the next step is okay. What do you got to do to get that done? And I'm going to give everybody a free gift right now because I have a chapter in my book and it's theirs for free, and it talks about that. And what I love about this chapter, so when you talk about compounding,
Mm,
that word, most people would go, hey, that's compounding interest, right?
interest.
Money.
Yeah.
Okay. This chapter does talk about that, but it talks about compounding. Do you know right now every area of your life is compounding, whether positive or negative? Your relationship, your marriage, your kids, everything, your health and wellness, everything is on a trajectory. And that trajectory could either be negative or positive. And so this chapter, if you go to our website, it's richbychoicebook.com, www.richbychoicebook.com. You say sign up for your free gift. It's right there in green. Put in your email address. Click on the chapter that says compounding by choice. And what it does is whether it be a business, whether it be leadership, whether it be family, money, anything, health, wellness, it's going to take you through and give you simple actions where, hey, it's free. It's my gift to you to where it'll help you start building those daily habits of what's the little things I can do to get to where I want to get. Because most people think, hey, I'll be happy when I get $1 million or I get 10 million or whatever they go. I'll be happy when I find Mr. and Mrs. Right, or I'll be happy when. No. Scientific evidence points to we start experiencing joy and happiness when we start working towards the things that are going to make us happy. And so that's the number one thing I'd want to get across is okay, hey, what is the life that you want to live? Now, what are those small little strategies we can start implementing right now, right off the bat? Easy. And then we can build off that. And so that's what this chapter does. In this chapter, we've heard so many success stories about it, and it helped my life and thousands of others. It's really powerful.
I love that. I'm definitely going to have that link that you just listed out available in the show notes because people can go in and tap into that and get the whole book, right? Read the whole book. You just had a little taste of it. But I actually love the approach that you take because it's not just people think about money and think about it in very singular terms. And whereas you're like,
Hmm.
no, it's the full holistic view, 360 view of your life. So you're talking about money, but then it's the mindset, it's the behaviors, it's the actions that you need to take. It's then you're not doing it by yourself as well. If you're married, you're doing it with your partner, you're thinking about your family. So all those different elements all come together in this. And that's why it's such a powerful conversation that we've just had, but more importantly, the tools and resources are available people can tap into and actually get to the point where they are living lives that are on their own terms.
Hmm.
And they're doing everything that they've set out to do because they've taken the time to think about it. Choice. Rich by choice, exactly as you said. So honestly, this conversation has been powerful. Like there's so many different levels that we got into, but just seeing the connection from your faith to marriage to how it leads into who you are in business, but more importantly, how your faith and your values ground how you approach things. For me, that integrity just screams out loud, and that's what you want in someone who is talking to you about money, who's handling your money. Integrity should be pinnacle, and so many examples you kind of given all the way throughout that. Just I was like, yeah, I can see that resonating with me personally, but with how
Hmm.
you show up in the world. So thank you for the conversation.
Oh, well, I thank you. I love what you're doing. I really appreciate it.
No problem. So, like I said, all the information about Dr. Nicholas will be available and you can get involved and get supported. Until next time, we'll see y'all.
That's it. God bless.